thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and it's wonderful to have this as church community, church family together. But obviously, this is a really important moment that we get to talk into, mark again, where we are as a church community. And it's so wonderful that we've got, I think, all our trustee team here as well, bar Austin, yeah. But Austin, if you're watching at home, we love you, my friend. But just to say, we want to communicate together. I want to first start by saying, maybe you've got questions such as, one question, why the long pause? Why has it taken us this long to have this review today, or update? Well, I hope that the last, 17 months has given some insight into that. It's been such a challenging time for everyone. See? Such a challenging time. And not only has COVID kind of changed the landscape of how we live, but the last 6 or 7 months have been really painful as well. But with obvious reasons, our focus and priorities have had to shift into how do we bring some form and structure across our church community, and some health in terms of how do we connect together. So being in this space is actually part of that we've focused on Sundays, not just to have a meeting, but to be together as a church family, and also small groups. So that's been our focus, but we realize now it's time to lean into the building project and share a thorough update. And I just want to honor John. John has done such a phenomenal job, alongside the trustees as well, just keeping this project ticking over. So we're in this together. Trustees are with us. Hopefully, church community, you can be with us today as well as you hear more. But I think John's going to kick us off.
Yeah, so I just want to give a little bit of context of our journey as a church community, and a little bit of the story of the Army Reserve Centre at Ardwick Green North. That's a picture of our lovely steel portal roof up there, and our skylights, which mostly don't leak, so that's good, isn't it? So if you've been around this church family a little while, you'll have heard the words Project Home. So since kind of 2014, 2015, we've been fairly intentional in our pursuit of a building. We felt the Lord was speaking to us about that time. And to be honest, I've looked at everything on the market. I've looked at warehouses. I've looked at grade 1 listed former Church of Science buildings. That was a favourite, actually. That was really nice. Looked at more warehouses. We even got quite a long way with pursuing one warehouse. You remember a couple of years ago, so it would have been back into 2019, we were going for a change of use planning application in order that we would then be able to make an offer on a warehouse on Empress Street in Trafford. That change of use planning application fell through, apparently, as did the roof a few months later. So we've done well to not get that one. But then in autumn 2019, I heard about this place being on the market, and it was a long journey to be able to get to the point of being able to make an offer, but we felt the Lord speak to us along the way. You know, we've been carrying a bunch of words about being in the city to reach the city. We've been carrying words about being holding a heritage property, about things being miraculous when we get it as well. And so this is Ardwick Green Army Reserve Centre. You've probably seen some pictures of it at various points so far. But our story of this place is just beginning, but it's got its own story already. So I just want to tell you a little bit about that. So we'll keep this brief. We're going back as far as 1886. This building was commissioned and it was opened in 1887. It's not going to be year by year, don't worry. We'll try and get this done in half an hour, and then you can go home and have your dinner. But I want to introduce you to a fellow called, here it is on a map, in 1891. I want to introduce you to this guy on the left, Colonel Henry Rocker. He was the guy that commissioned this building. He was the guy that funded this building through a series of very, very low interest loans. And here are his initials in some of that stained glass that Sam was talking about earlier. That's on the first floor in a room where the first time you guys may have seen it was when we were recording all our streams from there, and then doing those live. So this guy, Henry Rocker, he's got an important role to play in the story of the building, in getting it built, in commissioning it, and in funding it in a pretty unique way for the time. And then just some fun facts over the years of how this building has been used. So in World War I, it was a commissioning centre for troops heading off to the Western Front. Sadly, a lot of those guys didn't come back. But the whole way through, it's been used by the Army Reserves. You may have heard that referred to as the Territorial Army before. What I find interesting about the Army Reserves is there are a bunch of people that aren't in the army as their full-time job. They've got things they do through the rest of their week. They've got places to go throughout the rest of the week. But they come together, they get commissioned, they get trained, they get equipped, and then they get sent back out into the city throughout the rest of the week. I think that's really interesting. Don't know about you. These are some lads in 1921. You'll see at this point in the building, this is actually the ground floor. There's a balcony above, and this isn't how the building is laid out anymore. So what they did when they first built the building, they built the ground floor. They had some of the old frontage of the building that you can see on the front pictures. That's original. But the first floor, as we see it now, the one that looks like a big main hall kind of space, that wasn't part of the original design of the building. So what they did was they had the ground floor first, and then later on, after it had been used for a prison for deserters during World War II, after they'd done that, in 1956, they extended the building, they added a garage at the back, and they added the first floor to the drill hall. And so, just some more lads hanging out on the first floor that's recently been put in at some point in the 1950s. Here's a fun map that's got a lot of information. This was actually a map made for the fire insurance. It's got lots of fun little details, and it tells you a whole load of things, like there were stores on the ground floor, there's a drill hall on the first floor, it tells you where the stone steps are, it tells you where the garage is. It's probably too small to read it, but if you'd like a copy, I can send you one. And then 2016, the Army Reserves, they vacate the building, and it's empty for a number of winters, which we are reaping the rewards of. And the building's empty. And so then in December 2020, the 23rd of December 2020, at the very last moment we could possibly buy this building, we bought this building and got the keys. And so two of our big words that we are believing for this building is that it would be a place of commission, like we've already talked about, and it would be a place of compassion. So I'm going to hand over to these guys to tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, a facility, a building, radically affects the shape and the capacity that you have for mission and what it looks like to be present in a city. And I know that in many ways, to be slightly nomadic, it felt a little bit kind of in the wilderness, pitching a tent, as it were, like week on week, pitching a tent. I found it a little bit romantic in the sense of it feels like we're assembling the tabernacle with the pipe and the drape and the lights and the haze and all this kind of stuff. I think I was probably the only one. Probably if I've only been here a couple of years, it's like, wait, do that long enough and it will lose its shine. But I think there's something incredible about the transition that we're in from what is a kind of a wilderness experience to actually being rooted in a land, being rooted in a place, being rooted in a community. And the opportunity that it gives us actually is for compassion. That's been that's been probably one of the most important concepts for us in terms of understanding. It's not just that we get a bit of an easy setup on a Sunday morning because we've got a building that we own. It's far more about what it looks like for us to be present in a community throughout the rest of the week. And so we've been dreaming about that already. We really want to have conversations with people who would carry this kind of stuff on their heart. But we've been dreaming and just even inquiring a little bit and working out what kind of stuff could we do. Obviously, we want to foster and develop and enrich the relationship that we have with Barnabas and work out what that looks like to be in that space and to be partnering with that charity. But also, we've been having conversations with the Message Trust. They, in the beginning of lockdown, they started a thing called a community grocery, which was a space in their facility where people could come from the community, pay £5 a year as a subscription, but then for £3 would get about £40 worth of shopping from like Morrison's and Waitrose. But they could actually choose the things that they would want for their shop in their basket. And I went to go meet some of the people there and just to chat to them and to see what the vibe was like. And it was just incredible to meet a bunch of people who came because I think one of the most important things is about church is that relevance isn't that it's cool. Being relevant as a church doesn't mean that you're cool. Being relevant means that you're actually meeting a need. And it was incredible to see these people coming in and experiencing a need being met, but more than that, experiencing community. I met these women who had come to the community store to get their groceries, but now serve as part of the team there because they found community, they found a purpose. Not only that, they found Jesus. And over 100 people over the last year have made a first-time commitment to follow Jesus, and they've had to start a church off the back of it as a result. Isn't that incredible? And I'm just so excited by the idea that people can experience the love of Christ, not by having to conform to a gathering and to turn up for that, but actually by virtue of like, this is where I'm going to get my shopping, this is where I'm going to meet my friends and have a coffee. I remember the church I grew up in was a little Anglican church, and it was a classic kind of cruciform church. It was just shaped like a cross. You had enough room for 100 people, an altar at the top, a baptistry at the bottom. You had a little room to hold all the bits for the organ, and then another room so that the vicar could get his dress on. And that's kind of how it worked. And what was interesting about that, before the parish system, before that space where it was like the people would just come for that service and that gathering, there were these monasteries that were like a community in a community for a community. It's where education happened, it's where healthcare happened, it's where artisanship happened, it's where community and connection and extended family happened. I'm so excited that we have a building where it is in the city, a stake in the city, that actually has the potential to be this beautiful, diverse space that holds spirituality, that holds health and welfare, that holds like good thinking and good mindsets, that gives the opportunity for someone to come and get their shopping and maybe access an alpha course or maybe access like CAP, and debt advice and things like that. The holisticness and the opportunity we have for holistic connection to a community in this space is absolutely incredible. And so we have a stake in the ground here. It says, strengthen the stake, strengthen the faith, expand the place for your tent. And so this is a heart that was in us that I think it's going to look really different, but it's going to be because of an expansion of this heart for compassion. And not only that then, to be a sent people, to be a people that are commissioned to go. It's still true that we're not going to get the whole city into our church building, but we're going to get the whole of this church family into the city. And we're a sent people who get to work out our cultural mandate wherever we are. And we're going to continue to celebrate that and for that to be a key cornerstone of who we are. But how beautiful is it that we get the opportunity to actually extend the place of our tent in regards to what it looks like to be a family of compassion, a community in a community for a community.
Yeah, and I think we just want to really humbly recognize that other people know what they're doing a lot better than we do. So that's why we want to work with these guys like Barnabas, like The Message. And recognizing that perhaps just over the last little while, we've maybe got just a little bit flabby as a church family in terms of how we've organized ourselves to show that compassion to the world. I'm not for a second doubting anyone that's taken their individual responsibility as a follower of Jesus seriously, but we recognize that the church has been at its best over the centuries when it's been leading the way in healthcare, in education, in caring for the poor. We would not have a welfare state, we would not have an NHS, we would not have the school system we have today if it was not for the church leading the way, and we want to step into that heritage. Great. So what have we done so far? So we got the keys in December. We've done a few things. We've not done a lot. You see, this building has been a little bit more complicated. As we've peeled back one layer, we've discovered that there's a few more underneath. And so things have been a little bit slower, taken a little bit longer, and a bit more complicated than we initially hoped. And we've done some things like we've fixed the roof where it was leaking. There's still a few little leaks, but the roof is going to come back and sort those. We've moved in as a staff team. So as Sam was saying earlier, there's space for us to meet together a space for us to hold a few smaller gathered spaces, like our students have been in and worshipped together and prayed together. And we've got some desks, we've got some office space. So that is working. It's working all right for us. At the minute, we might just change the decor from the lovely sort of 1980s military vibe. We'll send it home with Sam. He can have it in his conservatory, maybe. And we have done some of the process of removing some of the walls, some of the flooring, some of the stuff that is going to come out. The interesting thing about owning a listed building is that you need to only take out things that you're allowed to take out and that aren't that you have permission to take out. And we have recognised that maybe we've gone just a little bit too far before we've got permission. We think we will get permission. Okay, but we just want to be honest with you about that. So between the team, this team, and then some of the guys that were helping us, there's been a bit of over-enthusiasm to get further down the line than we will be. But we've put a pause on process until we have got the right both planning permission and listed building consent. You might have recalled that we talked about planning permission a while back, around about a year ago, and saying that, hey, we don't need planning permission to be in this building. I think what we've uncovered as we've gone further down the process, talked to a few more people along the way that can really help us understand what's happening with the building. We realised that in order to put a coffee house in there, we definitely need some planning permission, and probably to be just absolutely above board so we don't get a knock on the door from the council on a Sunday morning. We need to make sure that we've sought planning permission to meet there as a church community. There is no logical reason why we would not get planning permission for that. It's bringing the building back into use. It's bringing an empty building that was empty for a long time into a use that is very consistent with its original aims, and that is gathering people together and sending them away to go and be who they are through the rest of the week. And also for the way that we want to love and serve the community around us, we think we've actually got a really strong case. So I'm not concerned about that. I hope you're not concerned about that. But if you are concerned about that, I'd love to have a conversation. And just the other thing to say, at this point, the things that we've done, just again, shout out to our trustees that have really supported us through this process. A massive shout out to Joe Kimball and Andy Shepherd, who are the crack building team among the trustees. And I mean, to be honest, it's just great having to Zoom them every few days. And not every few days at the minute, but there was a point where we were on Zoom quite a lot. So those guys are really supporting me specifically, but us as a team as we move forward with this building. And then the other thing that I'm really excited to let you know about is that this week we have started working with a new architect. So he's called John. He works for a company called Arca. He's got some experience with listed buildings. He's got some experience working all over Greater Manchester, but one of the super fun things is that he really understands who we are and what we're trying to do, because he's a Christian. He understands that where we're going as a church, we've not just got a massive big pot of money that we can throw at this thing. He understands we're going to take it bit by bit. He understands that we want to, as a community, get our hands on this thing and get involved as well. So that's going to be part of the process, and I've got some drawings to show you in a little while from John. But that's where we are. So what's next? What is next? I think I'm talking about what's next. Yeah, okay, great. I just do it to see the panic in your eyes, son. So this next phase of time, we are going to be careful about what we're doing in the building, because we're waiting for this listed building consent and this planning permission, and our architect is going to lead us by the hand through that process. I've got no idea how it all works, but he does. So, and he's got access to the right advisors and the right systems to help us through that process. But as we have looked at this building, we've realised it's massive. It's huge. It's like 30,000 square feet. It's enormous. And if you've been around it, you've probably got lost because it's that big. So there's a lot to do. And I've been thinking about that well-known proverb that's not from the Bible. That's, the question is, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So our next bite of this elephant looks like us really going hard at the ground floor of the building. So I love that because that is how the building was originally built. That is the original story of the building. As my friend John told me, the story of this building is written in the stones. We're going to help retell the story of this building by how we move into it. So we're going to go for the ground floor first. So like that second floor was added, we're going to just hold on a little while until we're meeting all together in that big first floor room. We're going to be meeting on the ground floor together as a church family. You can see, because the building is massive, you're not going to be able to see all the details on this plan. I mean, this is what the ground floor looked like when we first moved in. You can see it's kind of broken down into a bunch of different rooms. Top left there, you've got the garage, and then the main entrance, and the lovely sort of castle-like frontage you can see is at the bottom of the picture here. So it's going to look something like this when we first move in as part of our first phase of gathering together. So there'll be a big gathering space in the middle there. There'll be a coffee house at the front, so facing onto the street. So you can just come hang out with us during the week. We've got compassion spaces. That's intentionally vague. Like I said, we want to work with people that can really help give us good advice. We're also looking at what is available in the local community, talking to some other guys, like Manchester Vineyard are just down the road. They've got a community centre. There's a whole other churches like Brunswick Parish Church. They've been working in the community for decades. Like, we don't just show up and assume that we know better than anyone else, do we? Like, we want to work with the people that have been there doing the work for a decent amount of time. And then I've not put this on the screen, but above that there'll be spaces for game changers, for youth to meet in, with a long-term plan that eventually on the first floor above this space there'll be a big gathered space for us to meet in. There'll be a big space for our game changers to meet in. There'll be space for youth, space for our little ones. All of that will be coming, but this is kind of what the ground floor is going to look like during our very first phase. So just to give you a bit of an idea, this is what the entrance hall looks like presently. As you can see, we've taken out a few bits and pieces, taken out some asbestos that really needed taken out, and a few other bits and pieces. But just to give you an idea of what it could look like, this is sketch number 1 of 3. So yeah, could have fit in a slightly bigger logo, but we chose not to. So that's what it might look like as you come into the building. So. And then this currently is the coffee house space. So we've got these beautiful windows. So just an idea of what this could, there you go, that's what we're hoping for over there. This is what it could look like. I can't guarantee that you'll have a man in a bow tie serving you coffee. But if you'd really like that to happen, let's have a conversation and we'll get there. And then again, this is that foyer space. You can see there's a bit of some bits and pieces stripped out. But this is what it could look like. Again, we could probably get a slightly bigger logo than that on the back wall. But that's what it could look like. But these are sketches. They're not sort of finished drawings. They're not plans. They haven't got all the right fire exits and electrics and all of that stuff that we need to go on. But they're just to give us an idea of what this space could really look like. But we recognise that you might have some questions for us at this point. So,
yeah.
Sam.
I will come round with a microphone so we can ask some questions. Before I do that, though, as we see these sketches, obviously John's saying, John, that was really well described, you guys, by the way. But John, the architect, he's obviously just putting some ideas for us. And as he was saying, as John brought to me and Andy, through Andy and Joe, about the idea of phase 1 being downstairs, you can suddenly see it. It's like, whoa, to do the whole building, it's like unattainable. But to suddenly see that ground floor and get those sketches, you start thinking, wow, that's going to be incredible. But we realise this is a family project, and we want to hear what you guys think about this as well. So are there any questions? And I'll run around with the microphone. Shirley.
Timescales?
Yeah, so I think the first question that I was going to ask, if I had to ask a question, was how much and how long? which is 2 questions. I appreciate that. How much and how long? Well, the honest answer is, I don't know. And I hope you're all right with us not knowing. My good stab in the dark is that it will take us the rest of this year to see the process with the council. So that's the plan of permission and the list of building consent. So we'll have, hoping that we'll get that signed off by the end of 2021. And then, again, it slightly depends on what we're going for, what level of finish, who does the work, how involved we get, how much money we have to do the work. But I would love to see us in there, in the ground floor next summer. I think that would be a goal that I would have that feels realistic. It still feels quite far away, and I appreciate that it is far away. But I don't want to tell you we'll be in by Christmas, and then have to tell you we'll be in by Easter, and then have to tell you we'll be in by the summer, because it drags on and on. So it could take us a while. So I just want to be honest, that's longer than I would like it to be. I'd love to be in there 6 months ago. But sadly, that's not the case. And in terms of probably the other question that goes with that is how much is this going to cost us? And again, the honest answer is we don't know just yet. What I would want to tell you guys is that we spent all the money that's been given towards the building has gone on the building so far. We've got a really healthy reserve, so it's not specifically building fund, but we do have some money set aside that is not allocated to anything in particular. But obviously, there's just a few things up in the air at the minute, and so we just want to be wise about how we steward that money that we've got in reserve. But it is going to take us partnering again, giving financially. It is going to look like us going and seeing what support is available out there. Just all the funding, all the money that we've raised so far has come from you guys, and it's come from existing relationships. So we've not really explored what grants and funds are available out there at the minute. And so those are some of the places. So when I have some more accurate figures, so like we're still at the sketch stage with our architect, we're not at the proper plans stage, and at that point we'll get support from quantity surveyors and people that can help map out the rest of the process and give us an idea of what it's going to cost. So I don't know, but I hope it's soon, and I hope it's not too much. So when I have an answer for those things, I would love to tell you, because I'll be really excited when we've got an answer for those things.
Al, I'm coming to you, man.
People who disabled, how will they go on?
Great question.
That is a great question. So we are going to make sure the ground floor has completely level access. So there won't be any steps when you're going into the building and moving around the ground floor. That's going to be completely level. When we get to it and you need to go upstairs, we will have a lift. That's part of the reason why we're not looking at the first floor right now, because lifts are expensive, and we want to make sure we get a good lift that doesn't terrify you as soon as you shut the door. So that is going to come a bit further down the line, but while we're meeting on the ground floor, it will be completely level access. We'll make sure there are accessible toilets. We'll make sure that, there's no steps that you need to navigate in order to be able to move around the ground floor.
Is the architect going to be the same architecture?
Is it going to be the same one that we used throughout the process? So we're going to use. Well, at this point, we haven't committed beyond what we need to do straight away. It's a good relationship. We're really enjoying getting to know John and working alongside him. And the honest, cold, clinical answer is that we might change architects along the way. It's my hope that we don't have to do that, because that's a lot more complicated. But again, we're just going to take it bit by bit. John understands the fact that we're going to take it bit by bit, and he's not trying to tie us in for every single job that might come down the line.
Was part of your question, is the look going to stay the same? As in the castle looking?
Yeah, so one of the great things is we're not allowed to touch the front. Like, that's got to stay the same. So that's definitely staying the same. We want to really actually embrace the original features of the building, and not just, you know, put loads of plasterboard up and make it look plain and boring. We want to embrace the character, embrace. There's loads of beautiful arches, there's loads of beautiful details all throughout the building, and we're going to want to make the most of those so we can really enjoy them, and it's a beautiful space, not just a functional space. But I think we can do both at the same time.
Yeah, really good. Rich.
Yeah, it's more of a suggestion, really, than a question. Built a church in the 1990s, and it actually ended up costing next to nothing because there are...
Thank you very much.
There are thousands of charities you've never heard of all around the place, the Sir Bufton Tufton Memorial Fund and all that kind of thing. And if you word it right, and if you're doing some community stuff as well, what I'd suggest is that somebody is put onto that, as in just finding possibly a trustee, perhaps? No, sorry. Somebody is given that task, not me, by the way, to just start researching charity after charity. I mean, we had a £300,000 project. It cost £30,000 in the end. And that's the way I think this has got to be done.
Yes, I have the man in mind for that job, and he's sat over there.
Richard.
So, thank you, Richard.
One of the
That's a
things,
great point.
sorry, John, when we met with Roger Sutton, who's another leader within the city, he said the same, and Neil Cornthwaite said as well. There's pots of funds out there, so yeah. So was there another question? Joe.
Mine's not a question. I just want to add to what we've said there. This is a really fascinating historical building, so we can access funding for churches and for bringing your building back into life. So I think what you've said is really bob on.
That almost stirred a round of applause there. I feel it. One more question, or how are we doing for time? Is there anything burning? Any other burning questions for now?
We have hit half an hour, so if I can just... Probably the question on all of your lips is like, how do I get involved, right? How do you get involved? At this point, it's the same thing we've been asking you to do for a really long time. One is to pray, 2 is to give, and 3 is to come and get involved. Come get your hands dirty, come get sweaty, and we'll move some stuff together. So, because there are going to be some people catching up on this video, I really hope there is, some people catching up on this video through the rest of the week. I'm not going to ask you for a response on any of those things now, but some of you will know through a whole process of the last kind of 6-7 years, we were sending out reasonably regular prayer updates, asking you to pray for specific things. I want to step into that again. So if you want to commit to praying with us, probably about once a month, I'll send you some key things you can be praying for as we go along this journey. Secondly, like I said, this project is going to take money as well. And so if you have money burning a hole in your current account or your back pocket, then I would like to relieve you of that and spend it on this place. So we would love to make that happen. Just chat to me if that's something you want to do right now. I'm not going to ask for any commitments. We're not going to put any totalizers or targets on the screen right now. But then finally, a whole bunch of you have come and got involved when we've done volunteer days. We'll have some other of those days coming up. There's a few little bits and pieces we can get done over the next few months that's going to help just clear the way, just clear some things out, tidy up a bit, just make the building a little bit less dusty than it is currently before it gets more dusty again next year. So there'll be some opportunities to do that. We'd love to as we get to it, take a straw poll of like what days are good for people. Is it Fridays? Is it Saturdays? Do you really want to be in it at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday? We can make that happen. I'll take any help we can get at this point. So that's over to you. If you're already on the prayer list, you need to sign up again. I haven't 100% figured out how I'm going to do it. But I'll email you that information. Everyone will get all the details of this this update, and there'll be a way that you can respond off the back of that. You don't have email? We'll chat. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We need to figure out ways that the whole community can engage with this. And we genuinely want this to be a family project. You know, all the ideas aren't here. They're here. And there's not enough people in this room, but there are folks listening at home as well. Just before we pray together, I was struck by something Alan Scott said right at the start of COVID. He was feeling kind of prophetically, I guess. He gathered different church leaders together, and we were privy to get this recording secondhand, I guess. And he was just having the sense that churches that come out of this and survive going into the future will be churches defined by compassion. Not churches that somehow do compassion, but compassion is right at the heart of everything they do. And that's really what we're saying. That's something that we're feeling more and more and more. It's like, oh yeah, we happen to be able to meet there, but the purpose is that the love of Jesus gets flung out from that place. So I love how John and Andy have said this. There's two C's, compassion and commission. We want to be a house of compassion and commission. So can we pray? John, Andy, is there anything else? No more questions? There'll be more time for questions, I guess, as the coming months unfold. But I was just wondering, can we stand together and we'll pray? I was going to invite Andy Shepherd maybe to come and pray with us as well. And Joe, Jem, if you want to come join us too. Just want to model that we're in this together. So maybe just still your hearts. Think about all that you've heard today. Yeah, one minute. Think about everything you've heard today. Just think about, oh gosh, like John brilliantly said, how can I get involved? So maybe that's your heart's prayer, like, God, help me. Help me with my finances. Help me with my time. Help me with my prayers. Just still yourselves for a minute, Andy.
Just as I've listened to this, I just feel it clear there's two building projects. We have a building, we have a church, and we want God to build both. You know, we want God to raise up finance, we want Him to raise up people, we want Him to raise up heart, we want Him to raise up vision. This is a big project, and He's the only one who can deliver. And we just need to pray into that. We all need to pray into that. You know, we need to look at ourselves and say, what can I give? What can I receive? What can I pray? What can I do? But this is a God project. Okay, I'll pray then. Jesus said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it. And Jesus, we just want to ask you to fulfill that promise with this church in this place at this time. And God, for all the things we've just talked about, we just pray that you will provide, you will open the storehouse of heaven and pour out all of your goodness. That we will indeed see the needs of real people being met. That we will indeed see people come to know Jesus. We will see disciples raised. We will see projects we've not dreamed of now happen. We will see people sent to the ends of the earth to reach the lost. We will see the poor fed. We will see the hurt receive comfort. We will see those in prison visited and ministered to. So God, we invite you to do this, and we just want to follow you. So we ask for your blessing, we ask for your goodness, and we ask for everything you've got for this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, just got a lovely little picture there of when the room's been laid out for the kids to play, and there's crayons over there, and there's paint, and there's messy stuff, and the kids go in, they just say, go on, go for it, have fun, be creative, let's see everything in you come out. I think God's done a bit of that with this building for us. Let's see what's in there. And we're going to have fun, we're going to be creative, and it's going to be beautiful, and he's going to delight in it.
Sorry, I didn't want you guys to stand up here like lemons. So anything else you're feeling, Jem, Joe, John, Andy? Do you want to close this out?
I just want to say, we want to keep you updated. So it won't always be like this after we've gathered together. Hopefully next time be a bit more short, sharp and punchy, and we can do it in the flow of our Sundays gathered together. But we just wanted to take this extended time to thank you so much for sticking around. Maybe you came out especially for this, who knows. But yeah, thank you for sticking around. Just to say, we don't need to move any chairs today, despite the fact it is different. There's still a little bit of tidying up. We've got some stuff to pack in a van, but if you need to head off, thank you so much for sticking around, and we want to keep talking. All right. Thanks, everyone.